It's almost a new year. We're a third of the way through the NBA season and the standings are really starting to take shape. Let's take a look at the West and the East and see where things lie today. We've said it all season and nothing is changing in the West. It is as wild and as crazy as we predicted at the beginning of the year. But there's one team that's standing above the rest, 5 games ahead of everybody else. Now, yes, we have a long way to go, but personally, I would be really surprised if Oklahoma City does not finish as the #1 seed. Not only have they been dominant, winning 15 of their last 16 games, not including the NBA Cup Finals, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Western Conference Player of the Week, and a new Vegas favorite for the MVP award. And of course, all of this without Chet. Can't wait to see what they look like at full strength. For me, this is where the real fun begins, the race to the 2 seed. As it currently stands, it's the Memphis Grizzlies. They've been amazing all season, but yesterday, if you saw, Ja Morant's arm was in a sling. I'm not saying to panic, and by the way, Memphis is my pick to finish as the 2 seed. Did you know the Grizzlies are the only team in the West with a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense? Legitimate contender. Number 3 right now is the Rockets. They've been the feel-good story of the season, and rightfully so, but make no mistake about it. No matter where the Rockets end up seed-wise, if they make the playoffs, these other veteran teams are going to want to face them in round 1. And right now, the matchup for the Rockets would be the 6th seed LA Clippers. Obviously, a long way to go, but we've heard all this talk about, oh, they don't play defense. Well, this series would be all about defense. Number 2 in the NBA in defense in Houston versus number 4 in LA. And remember, Kawhi Leonard expected to make his return next week. And how crazy would this potential first-round series be? The question with Dallas is simple, though. Calf strains are nothing to joke about, and Luka being out for an extended period of time is going to really test Dallas's fortitude and depth. The question for the Mavericks is simple. They're 2 games above Denver to stay out of the play-in tournament, and without Luka, can they maintain that lead and stay in the top 6? The Lakers have to be looking around and feeling great about where they're at. They just made the trade for Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton, 2 guys that I expect to play right away for them. And JJ Redick said even with the 2 new guys, nothing changes with the starting lineup. With the injuries to Ja Morant, to Luka Doncic, the Lakers have to look at the West and say, why settle at the 5 seed? They should be thinking to climb up higher, and remember, they still have those first-round picks that they could use in a separate trade. Again, have to re-emphasize, such a long way to go, so many things could shift, but if this is your play-in tournament, this is must-see TV personified. The Nuggets have had a turbulent season, and the reason for it, they are 18th in defense right now. We talked about Luka's calf injury. Aaron Gordon's been dealing with a calf injury all season that's kept him in and out of the lineup. This is my thoughts, though, when it comes to Denver. If you have to play them in a 7-game series, they're going to have the best player in any series, and when you have the best player in the series, you're always going to have a chance. They just have to avoid the play-in tournament. Minnesota's having the opposite problem of Denver. They have the number 6 defense, but the 21st ranked offensive rating. But there is something different about their offense recently. Dante DiVincenzo is looking like the big ragu from New York City again. He's averaging nearly 17 points a game over his last 6 games. He's shooting the 3-ball well, and he's finding his swag once again. Now this is where it gets really spicy. 9, 10, and 11 and 12 over on the right. As it currently stands, Phoenix and Sacramento are on the outside looking in, but Phoenix only 1 game behind Golden State, and we've seen the Warriors' recent slump. They look very beatable. With that being said, we've seen the best stretch maybe of Jonathan Kuminga's entire career. Let's see if he can keep it up tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And again, I'm not big on the whole ratings talk and what's wrong with the NBA today, but if this team makes the playoffs, even if they make the play-in, the ratings on that game would be unbelievable. Wembanyama, we saw what he did at the Garden. Can you imagine him in a 1-game win-or-go-home scenario? There's been a handful of underwhelming teams to start the season. The Phoenix Suns have to be considered as one of them. They're 1-5 over their last 6 games, and obviously being in 11th place is not where they expected to be right now. But with that being said, here's some positives. Kevin Durant has looked incredible. Devin Booker has a pulled groin, but he practiced fully today. He's probably going to be back very soon. And Bradley Beal has looked really good. The Suns can just stay healthy, and that is a huge if with this group. They're still going to be really scary and hard to deal with. Next up, we have the 12 seed Sacramento Kings, and the story with them is the same as it's been. They're 3 games behind San Antonio right now. They already fired Mike Brown. They have to pick a direction with this group. And then the 3 teams in the Cooper and Dylan Harper sweepstakes. Portland, Scoot has looked really good. He hit the game winner the other night, and then he had a really good game following that. Utah, another team with interesting trade assets at the trade deadline. Guys like Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, what do they do with those guys? And the Pelicans, my goodness, they have 1 win in the last 44 calendar days. Man, it's been a disaster for them. Now we go out east where the top 3 seeds are really starting to separate. How about those Cleveland Cavaliers? After the amazing win streak they had to start the season, it feels like everybody just stopped talking about them, but they've continued to win and win and win. Who predicted them to have a 4.5 game lead at this point for the 1 seed? As it stands right now, they really look like they're determined to get that 1 seed. And if Cleveland gets that 1 seed, that means they would avoid the 2 and the 3 until the Eastern Conference Finals potentially. And by the way, look at that race for the 2 seed. It felt like Boston was going to be comfortable in that spot, but now the Knicks are only 1 game back. They've won 7 in a row, and their defense, a top 5 defense in the month of December. That was the Knicks' biggest crutch earlier in the season. Now that they're figuring that out, Jalen Brunson's playing better on offense. That Knicks team is scary. And by the way, this as a second round matchup would be unreal. But don't want to get ahead of myself because this as a first round matchup between the Knicks and the Bucks would be unbelievable as well. The Bucks have really impressed me over these last few weeks, ever since winning the NBA Cup. Even without Giannis, guys like Bobby Portis have stepped up. Chris Middleton has looked good. Dame has looked good all season. Even in losses, we've seen the emergence of Brook Lopez. We've seen Gary Trent Jr., AJ Green. This team is good. Speaking of good teams, how about Atlanta? They've won 4 in a row, and even after the NBA Cup, they've remained consistent and reliable. Trae Young has 23 double-doubles, but the real story with this team is that bench in that second unit. And it's led by DeAndre Hunter, averaging 20 points a game in the month of December. Who knew that a guy could take a year 7 leap? And all that with Atlanta is without Bogdan Bogdanovic playing his best basketball. If he can get going as well, they become even scarier. For Orlando, the story is simple. Can they stay out of that play-in tournament while they wait on Paolo and Franz to come back? There's been no team in the NBA more resilient, more tough, more determined this season than these Magic. This team has my ultimate respect. And then in the play-in, for all the talk about doom and gloom and trade rumors with Miami, they're tied with the Bucks for the 6th seed. And only 2 games back of Orlando for the 4 seed. Bam Adebayo is averaging 16 points a game. If Bam can just play like Bam, they would be so much better right now. There's been a lot of doom and gloom talks with the Pacers too, but they're still looking okay. 1 game back of 500, still a long way to go. And remember, this is all without Aaron Nesmith. When they get him back and they're fully healthy, this Pacers team is still going to be a very tough team to deal with for anybody. Right now, it seems like the last 2 spots are between 3 teams, Chicago, Detroit, and Philly. Remember, Chicago's pick is top 10 protected, so they could end up selling a lot of their guys and then tanking. Guys like Lonzo, Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, we've heard all these rumors for months, but we know what these freaking Bulls do. Do they actually sell the guys, or do they end up chasing that 9 seed? We know what they're going to do. Meanwhile, Detroit, Cade Cunningham is turning into a superstar. And yes, we use that term loosely sometimes, but when it comes to Cade, 24 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds a night, those are superstar type numbers. Philly's starting to look better recently. That win in Boston, then they win in Utah. They got to keep it going. But my mind with them has not changed once this season. If Embiid is healthy, if Maxi's healthy, if George is healthy, they're going to be in the mix. And then we have the 4 teams in the Cooper Flag Dylan Harper sweepstakes. Can't wait to see D'Angelo Russell in Brooklyn. Him and Cam Thomas is actually going to be quite fun. At some point, we have to talk about the LaMelo Brandon Miller injury situation with the Hornets. Every season, it's the same thing. How are they 7-24? They have too much talent to be this pathetic. Now that Bruce Brown is back for the Raptors, I'm curious to see if he can get his trade value back up before the trade deadline. And same thing with this team. Malcolm Brogdon, Jonas Valanciunas, couple names to watch before February.